continuation of the explanation of Bereshit as brought by the first Rashi. It says, the Torah was given, to recapitulate, the Torah was given by Hashem, a divine revelation, in order to know what answer to give to the accusation of the nations of the world who accuse us of being occupiers and robbers of their land. And we, the people of Israel, claim that it's our land. And as we today live in such a time, when this is on the top of the news of the nations of the world, as well as the people of Israel, this question. So we're told that the best answer we can give is from the account of creation, that God created the world. He created life on this planet for all mankind, and divided it amongst the nations, and he decided to give it to certain nations, then take it away from them. So what did Hashem do? He chose the land which he called the land of Israel, then it was called the land of Canaan, and it did belong to Canaanites. Hashem gave it to them, and then gave it to us. And the verse which is brought, that from the book of Psalms, it says that God has given us, people of Israel, the inheritance of the land, in order there to fulfill His commandments. It says, He took it away from them and He gave it Lemisha Yashar Be'einav. He gave it to that nation which is upright in his eyes. So this very cryptic statement, because surely we all know, any human being that knows the Bible knows that from the Bible we learn out that God is the creator of the world. We learn out of the sin of Adam and Eve, and we learn all about the episodes of what happened afterwards with Cain and Abel, and with the deluge, and with the decree of the division of languages to stop the building of the higher building that should reach the heavens. And thereafter, when the different nations were divided in different languages, which also brought about the dispersion in different geographical locations for the different nations, then we have the episodes of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, and the descendants, Esau, Ishmael, and other descendants, Yosef, the tribes, what happened to the tribes. And then we have the description of the enslavement in Egypt. Now, it is well known that from the point of view of literature, the Gentile world, if they use the literature of the book of Genesis, not only to teach the Creator and the design of creation, and some say science proves the correctness, others have a debate. Maybe in some ages there have been those who have criticized it an extreme manner. But on the whole, these stories which are told, they have such a universal appeal that they're used for parents and for teachers of children, because they help children to develop a certain sense that life is based upon good people and evil people, of good influences and bad influences. And what is especially attractive is to build up a spirit of certain part of understanding and reverence to concepts of good and evil in the family. You know, charity begins at home, love begins at home. Sometimes you go the wrong way, hate also begins at home, and jealousy. So these concepts have entered into the mindset of nearly all mankind in one way or another, and had a great good influence. On the other hand, the fact that the people of Israel still remain today, while most of the other nations have changed in an enormous manner. So, this creates those who even they don't believe in the Bible, but they think the Bible has great value, the book of mankind, and is shown as the book of mankind more from Genesis than from the later books. So therefore Genesis has great value. And what does have value is this word Yashar, which is repeated in the Tanakh frequently. And in the morning prayer, we say to Hashem that the truth is, even the mind of mankind, Hakol Havel, it all leads to nothing. The wisdom of all the wise people doesn't lead to nothing. But we say, as the people of Israel, we are so grateful that God has brought into the world Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And when we end with Yaakov, we say, you called his name Israel and Yeshurun. Yisrael and Yeshurun. This goes together with the concept of Yashar. Yashar is referred to at the end of the philosophical work and the deep psychological work of Ecclesiastes, we call it Kohelet, which is addressed to all mankind, and where he says at the end, he says, Sof Davar, the final word on all discussions concerning the purpose of the world, Hakol Nishma, after you've heard all the different views, is that Elokim Asai et Adam Yashar, God of mankind and of nature, He made the human being to be straight, Yashar. Even Adam and Chava wanted them to be straight. If they would have been straight, they would have had blessing, this globe would have become Gan Eden then. Because they went crooked, as a result of that, the history of the human race is described as La Tacherev HaMitapechet, the ever-turning, flaming sword and destructivity of human events, of wars, and of misery, to preserve, ultimately, get back to the tree of life. And what do we read, both in the blessings of Jacob and of Moses, that ultimately, like the prophets describe in the words that are put on the bill of the United Nations, ultimately there'll be a time when from the temple, from the height of the mountain on which the temple is built, they will go, it will be the highest mountain in the world. It means, spiritually speaking, it will be the highest ambition of human beings to learn the paths of God and make war and destructivity obsolete. And that's the vision that is still in the minds of the human race. That Gan Eden can come back to this globe. And what's it based on? Yashar. So on the basis of this, I think it's a value to trace the different events that they refer to in the Chumash that describe, we can even say the cause of Yisrael, but Yisrael has a double meaning. Israel, the word is known through the mass media day by day to all human beings, but its meaning is not understood. Because it's based upon you can say even a mystical confrontation between our forefather Yaakov, which means he's at the heel of the other lands and other nations, and he has to go through a big struggle with Saror Shel Esav, but ultimately he will come out with the name Yisrael. He'll no longer be at the heel, because he'll declare Yisrael means that God is the ruler of this planet. Not only did he create it, but he has providence over it. But it means something else. It's Sarisa. Im Elokim v'im Anashim. It also means a struggle. We know the concept of struggle has been used by certain scientists to say there's evolution. Evolution takes place through struggle. That's correct. How do things grow? Comes through struggle. We know it from the human being. You want to grow in any area, you've got to be willing to struggle with obstacles. Life is not just a smooth path. Even with a smooth path, it will not contain the adventure. Life is an obstacle race. If you want to really live in any area of life, you've got to struggle. A person who wants to become a champion in any one of the sports, or a top soldier in the army, he's got to have physical training, which means controlling his diet, struggling with the desire for food, the desire for drink, certainly struggling with, you can say, lethargy and laziness. Otherwise you won't get anywhere. If you want to get any ambition, you've got to struggle. The question is, what are you struggling for? So the people of Israel, we can live if we continue the struggle, whatever level we're at. The struggle with the weak points which still exist in our character, our individual character and national character. So from this, let's go right back to the beginning. We see that when Adam and Eve, they'd gone astray, they'd left the path which is known as Yashar. And here there's an interesting point. Basic question. The tree which brought sinfulness is referred to as the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's Eitz Hada'at, pause, Tov Vara. Knowledge includes good and evil. Beforehand, they were not allowed to investigate the side of evil. But still, there was evil. They were told even that there was a cunning serpent. The cunning serpent is identified as the personification of the evil inclination. So Adam and Eve did have an evil inclination. If they wouldn't have had an evil inclination, how could they sin? They couldn't have sinned. And why should they be punished if they that no evil? What they punish? They're robots, like the rest of nature is basically fulfilling the will of Hashem, and they can't choose one way or the other. Your day Tov Vara means you've reached the level of the actual constant test of choice between good and evil. Beforehand, they didn't have that. And the Rambam defines this distinction, a very fine distinction. He says beforehand they knew the difference in truth and falsehood, but only when they ate from the tree of the knowledge, good and evil, then they had knowledge and freedom to choose either good or evil. And good or evil is defined later in that same Chumash, that to choose et hatov, to choose virtue, that's life. And to choose vice, that's death. Because the human being is different to the animals. The world is creating the image of God. The image of God means he's got inside himself enormous, deep knowledge, something's very deep inside a person, of what is right and wrong. And if it's a very strong knowledge, then his divine image makes him superior to the whole animal world and makes him the highest cream of creation. And it's much easier for us to have examples of that today. Today, I would say most more truly civilized human beings, they are inhibited to do Moloch worship. They're inhibited against cannibalism. You go and tell a person today, cannibalism, it's so ugly and so terrible that a person is not able to do it. And a person, generally speaking, civilized, is not able to kill someone in cold blood, cruel murder. Yes, even civilized people can attach themselves step by step to groups that are cannibals and try and understand, investigate their lifestyle, and then you say, well, what's the difference between cannibalism and eating meat? I mean, today where many people, they say, you know, I'm inhibited against killing animals for food and eating them. I can't eat them. Some people, they're very delicate nature, and they find it very difficult to eat fish that were previously alive, and even to eat fowl, and to eat meat. So the different inhibitions. We all have, I would say, inhibitions against cruel raping and murdering and robbing. So Adam and Eve beforehand, because of the awareness of their divine image, which was so strong in their character, it was impossible for them to choose evil. But the Nachash came, the servant, the Yisra came and said, but there is a power of evil in this world, a power of materialism. Why not try it out? Explore it because it's a good curiosity. Desire of exploration is a very important quality given to the human being, and it gives him the ability to explore areas that are not really in his bounds, the outer bounds as far as he's concerned. But he likes to explore them, as people do today as well. People sometimes like today there are people who are trying to explore the mentality of suicide bombers. They can't understand it. But they start studying, going into it more deeply, until they sympathize with them. And then suddenly they're even willing to do it themselves. So people can change. Adam and Eve, they changed. They opened the doors for the Nachash. Previously it was outside the Garden of Eden, and then through the poison of the Nachash, of the Yetzirah, they lost their Gan Eden. Paradise lost. But paradise can be regained, as is described by the prophets. But it's a long road. And let's study the road. Because what happened afterwards? They had two sons, twins, Cain and Hebel. Cain comes from the concept, Konisi Ish, even Chava said, I have acquired a man to follow me. The concept of possessiveness, which is even expressed by Chava, went into the character of Cain. And Hebel was one who was more delicate. So Cain is connected with the word kina. They say, kina motziat adam min ha'olam. What is the first crime that took mankind out of this world Mana olam means not olam, but out of this world. Was the crime of Cain. He was jealous of his brother. He saw his brother, who brought the best of what he had. So Hashem, it says, it doesn't say he turned to the offering. He turned to Hevel and his offering. That Hevel, he's trying to give his best to me, recognizing me as the ultimate creator. While Cain, he didn't. He gave. He brought something to Hashem. In fact, he brought something to Hashem, being the first. He came out before Hevel. And Hevel gave the best, and he gave the worst that he had. Good enough. In other words, he felt his own character was more important than Hashem. So he got in an argument, and he killed Hevel. But the sages say, here we have the first war in human history as described in the Chumash, where Cain killed a quarter of mankind before the others were born. And what did he? And so Hashem said, "Okay, really, you've done evil, very, very evil thing. You've allowed sin to take over." And there's a discussion. What was really the argument? One was, who is the one to own the world? Is the one who owns the land, or is the one who uses the land to pasture the sheep? The argument was about possessions and territory. That's the first cause of warfare until today. Who owns their land? At that time, they could divide the world between them. The second explanation is, they argued in whose area should they build the Beit HaMikdash. That was the religious warfare. And the third one was that Yetzer Hara, a perverse Yetzer Hara, got hold of them. Both of them argued about when Adam dies, who's going to get the mother. I think the idea of the Midrash is not to go here into the Oedipus complex, but rather it's a concept that also many wars are fought because of the power of love and hate. Hatred overtakes love. But the family from groups. These are three aspects. In the first, more serious aberration from Yashar, because if there would be Yashar, Adam HaRishon, in his first commandment, as is described by the oral tradition, was already given the Noachide code, which might also mean that he had it in his conscience. The conscience is the equivalent of the Noachide code. And by the way, I'll just give you an authority that deals with it. There is, in the introduction to the Shas, you'll find, sometimes in small print, one of the Rishonim, Rabbeinu Nissim, who gives a description of the significance of the Noachide code. He identifies it with the Seichel HaYashar. If a person thinks straight about morality and relationships with Hashem, and even more so relationships within society, the Seichel HaYashar will bring him to recognize the truth. And that was also what Hashem expected. I've given Adam the concept of the Seichel HaYashar in Gan Eden. And what did I say to Adam and Chava when I gave them this beautiful garden? I said to them, above all, Al Tashchitu, don't destroy this garden. Because there is the element of construction and production and reproduction fills every aspect of Gan Eden. And that's the significance of all the different fruit trees, because the human being is also compared to a tree. So a tree that's got strong roots can produce the best fruits. But it needs cultivation. You've got to keep on growing. And not go in the opposite way of destroying trees or corrupting them with different poisons. That's the way you can bring mankind back to Gan Eden. What followed this, we then read that Hevel had disappeared, Cain became a wanderer with a sign on his forehead. They shouldn't murder him. And then describes the descendants of Cain. And then describes how they were the first ones to introduce musical instruments. Very nice. They were the first ones to produce instruments which could be used in agriculture. And Tubal-Cain was also able to produce iron instruments in order to start technology. The beginning of the technology. They mention a brief phrase. But what was it used for? In fact, it says later on, Lemech, when the later generation, Lemech says, oh, I come from Tubal-Cain, and I'm going to use these instruments for attacking others and taking other possessions. So I can use technology, technology, to go and destroy. So here we have the continuation of Cain, of Kinyan. People who think, I want more possessions. How do I get them? I don't have enough to exchange. Other parts of mankind don't want to give away. I can't appease them with anything. They want to stay where they are and keep whatever land they've got and its produce. So I'll use these techniques. I'll use them. So mankind descended further. What do we find next? We find the next description is at the end of Bereshit that mankind was divided into two groups, Bnei Elohim and Benot Adam. And the Bnei Elohim says they took themselves women, whichever women they wanted. They took women, not Adam. The women who were daughters of Adam, and they were Bnei Elohim. Now we know the word Elohim is used for judges. It's also used for the strong people. It's used also for gods, different gods. And the truth is, many of the strong people felt themselves like gods. Or maybe they were the judges of the others. They were the rich ones, the powerful ones, but the Bnei Elohim. That's why we differentiate Bereshit bara Elokim. In other words, the word El means power, and Elohim is used for powerful people. Be they even angels who are powerful, also human beings who are powerful. The use of the Chumash for the judges. A person becomes a judge, he has power over others to decree what they have to pay and what punishment they have to give them. They can sometimes decide upon life and death of others. And two of the others, Benot Adam, the daughters of the human race, weak ones. So this is the basic explanation. What do they do? The weak, manipulating and even manipulating and using the weak women. They took some who were not married and raped them, even though they didn't want to be associated with them. And they took also from married women, took them away from their husbands. The husbands were weak, couldn't do anything about it. So what did Hashem say as a result? If not only are they using technology which is there to build up the world and make it a better place, and they're using it to kill others, and not only that, but now they no longer recognize me as their master. The strong ones think they are masters of this globe, and they can do whatever they want. They've forgotten the Noachide code, which are put into their minds. They're certainly going the exact opposite of the Hayashar, is that which is not Yashar at all. So he said, I'm giving up this experiment. And really, the sages say, we should know, what was Tohu Vavohu? There's a Midrashic explanation, Tohu Vavohu, before the creation of Adam and Eve. So the world was empty and chaotic, situation of chaos. But there's certain things created even before creation. Statement. Before the creation mentioned the Chumash. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Almighty God, has the ability to create different worlds. And if the world is successful, he carries on with it. If the world is unsuccessful, he gives it up and tries to make a new start. Because he wanted to create a human being that should have freedom of choice, which is the divine image. They should be creative. They should be faced with this situation, not just being robots, but they should be able to earn and reach a higher level of spirituality. That's what he wanted. Generation of Yesharim. So he saw this generation of Bereshis, of Cain, Tuval Cain, and then the Bnei Elohim. He said, my spirit will not rest upon man again, and I'm going to destroy them. They're all going to be destroyed. Only Noach Matzachem. Noach found favor in the eyes of Hashem. There's no Noach, reversed is Chaim. Nibtzachein, what is Chaim? Chaim, they say actually, it's a common saying, Chaim is a Hebrew word which loses its Chaim in translation. You can't translate it. But Chaim means charm, something that arouses a certain level of seeing a purpose in life. And we say Sheker HaChaim ve'vel hayofi, but Ish Yirat Hashem Yitetala. That means Chaim, person can have natural charm. He's a charming character. He's Noach. Noach means he remains calm and nice to everybody. He's a decent, nice person. You won't find him arguing with anyone. He'll rather stop speaking if somebody wants to argue with him. He won't get it. He's not addicted to anger. He's not addicted to self-praise. That's the type of person who arouses favor in the eyes of every man and also in the eyes of God. Therefore say, Noach is mentioned twice, like 3 times. Okay? He taught Noach, each time, him taught Noach, and that verse mentioned 3 times. They say, is Noach, his name was Noach. Is Noach Bashamayim and Noach Ba'aretz. Of course he was there. He didn't argue. Even that was his way. It's that if you only have chen, nothing else, then also likely often not to try to be in any way aggressive. So you also won't be aggressive even in bringing other people to Hashem. No, Hashem said, make an ark. He told him to make an ark before he mentioned anything about the deluge. Why should he make an ark? Because he and his family, they did find favor. It's true, he wasn't like his successor, we'll come to next week's parsha, who was aggressive in calling upon the name of Hashem, but he did it in a calm way. People asked him, for 20 years before, he didn't even know why. Completely. He did understand he's got to make a separate ark, which should have no entrance. Once it goes into this ark, this ship, should have no entrance. And also, there shouldn't really be any opening to the outside. But he didn't know about the deluge yet. So what was it? It was the pollution, it says before, the pollution of human society had reached such a negative ecological level that was poisoning the atmosphere, poisoning the waters. So even today, what is poisoning the atmosphere and the water? The greed of mankind that is destroying the beautiful rainforest and many other things, the greed to make profits on a high level is bringing a dangerous situation. We say that the ozone layer of the atmosphere is becoming destroyed, the atmosphere is becoming destroyed. It's endangering the future of life on this planet today. And that happened in ancient times. That's what's described. It says the poison went so far, it went 3 handbreadths into the surface of the crust of the earth. Also became poisonous. You put nice seeds that you preserved from wheat or whatever into the ground. It produced weeds. Most of them most of them destructive and poisonous. And the atmosphere, because of the social evils and the sexual evils of mankind, the znut, there were perversions. Perversions also with all types of swindling. Hamas, sages say, means, okay, if they were going to rob openly, they knew, like social morals of Voltaire, they knew, if they're all going to be thieves, then everyone will suffer. So they weren't open thieves, they were swindlers. They went like, oh, I heard the story even, a certain store in Har Nof, so they complain that many people come in and they taste the different products they have. And they can have in a day, they can have 100, sometimes a few hundred customers, and each one takes and tastes. So they only take a little bit. At the end, the whole jars are empty. And that's swindling. Otherwise, this is simple. They swindle one another. The corruption was so great, there was nobody who was any more an honest person. And sometimes even the greater he was, the more dishonest he was. And he could hide his swindling better and better. Well, there's certain aspects that's going on today as well, as we know. So this is the corruption, the moral and even emotional pollution of life on this planet, which extended to the plants and the animals. So but Noach was different. Noach says, no, Hashem told me I have to protect myself and my family from this. Let's make this big ship. Meanwhile, it's just near my house. He built it all the time. And he was told to go into it already, have it already ready, before he announced the flood. But then, if you reckon the chronology, it's quite important, you see that when it said, I'm going to bring a flood. But if you look carefully at the whole passage concerning the flood, Hashem was ready all the time with his midat harachamim, partly because of Noach. And that's why Noach also hoped. He says that everyone asks the question, how is it that when the ark was finished, Hashem has said now that he already gave the date when the flood's going to start, and they also he wouldn't go in. He would not go in. Why didn't he want to go in? He did not want to go in because he says, maybe because he always liked to look at the good side. He said, maybe there are around a few better people. I know I haven't been aggressive. I've done because whenever there's some put in the ark, I told everybody because now there's going to be a deluge. After the first 20 years, he was told there'd be a deluge. 100 years, try and get people to change by seeing the ark and hear what he has to say, but they just laughed at him. They said, well, they didn't really believe in Hashem anymore, and that they own gods. And they took no notice. But he still hoped maybe Hashem will have pity on them, and maybe there are some better people around. And that's why only when the first drops came, he went in, took everybody in, quickly. So this then becomes to the concept of the deluge. So that is perhaps that's what I said last week. I'll give time for questions. So I'm not going on yet. We want to go in this further till we come to Avraham Avinu. But maybe meanwhile, if any of you have any comments or questions, I'll be very pleased to deal with them. No one?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yes, but say it loud, please.
They say the difference between Abraham and Noah is Abraham did kiruv, so to speak, through kindness, and Noah, the people felt they were being rebuked, so that's why his modus operandi of doing kiruv wasn't working.
Yes, this is the concept like it follows. That Noach was Noach, he was nice and pleasant, and he hoped that the people who saw what he was doing would not just mock at him, but they'd take note. And sure, he said some people will take note and recognize they've got to get back to being Yashar, but Hashem saw it's not working. So therefore, he felt, even symbolically, he's got to protect himself, that he shouldn't be influenced by those around him, that he should not be affected by the pollution of the environment. So he kept in his own ark, he must have kept there certain qualities of fresh air in a miraculous manner, considering all the animals that were there as well. So he was really, even they say he was put through this test because the only way he could survive in the ark with his small family was to be active in doing kindness to the animals non-stop. So he had a whole year of having to work hard inside to do chesed. And that was what Hashem wanted him to reach through having the ark.
That's
And
the
the,
Zohar, right?
and the ark was entirely sealed from all the pollution around. Inside there was a good air, and there was enough food, and they were able to do it, but they had to work. They had no chance almost to goes off at any time. They had to work very hard to do chesed. And unfortunately, we see afterwards, when he came out, he did not change too much. So therefore, Hashem said to change the world, he won't be able to change the world. He can bring about he's brought about the survival of the human race, which is of great importance. So, which even when Adam has skipped that even when Cain and Hevel and their descendants, Hevel had died, Cain's descendants also died, so who took over Shet? Adam and Chava had another son. He was in the image of God. Again, he was born with the principle of Yashar, and from him came then all the races. But if the ten generations from Adam to Noach, there was Methuselah was a saint. They say, in some especially Hanoch was a saint, but the others, all the names even indicate Yered. They went down and down and down until they came to the level which is described before of the Benot Elohim and the Bnei Elohim, the Benot Adam. So that he didn't learn his lesson. So what did Avraham do? Avraham, he had through all his different tests, when he recognized the power of the Creator, he began to love the Creator, and he used his enormous energy of outgoing chesed to try and change the world. So he was the opposite of Noach. It wasn't just Noach, laid back and doing his duty, of course, in every aspect. But he knew he had to work hard. Hashem told him, "You've gone in front of me in Mesopotamia. You're ready to even to give up your life for me against Nimrod, and I saved you from it." So so Noach was saved from the flood, and Avraham Avinu was saved from being killed with fire. All caused him. He was saved, and when he was saved, he said, "Why did Hashem save me?" And he felt he was saved. I am saved here. I'm a survivor. So therefore, my task is to spread faith in the Creator. I live in an environment of corrupt idolatry and immorality. I'm going to try and change the world, because that's why Hashem saved me. And he became a pioneer. So this, as the first Rashi explains, it's explained a bit more in the Midrash. It says, "Et Elokim etalech Noach." Noach went with God. And to go with God, he had to protect himself against the environment. But Avraham, and it says in the Chumash, also Yitzchak and Yaakov, they went in front of God. This can be compared to a king who's traveling with his carriage, and he finds there's a person on the side of his carriage, it's thick mud, and he's sinking in the mud. And the king passes by and says, instead of sinking in the mud, come in the carriage. So it goes in the carriage. And then the Avraham Avinu is like a king who goes through dark places where there's no light, and so somebody sees him passing by, so it takes a torch, and when the carriage is passing, the king should find his way. So the king says, oh, you've got a torch? Become a torchbearer, go in front of the carriage, show the path, bring the power of God to other places. And then he chose Eretz Canaan. That seemed a more fertile place, because the far from 3 continents and so on, in which to spread the call that there's a creator who also looks after mankind. And he built the opposite. He built a tent which had an entrance on every side to bring in people who are idolaters and strangers, and to work and spread this faith in the world. And that's why he said to him, you have to carry on your path of strong belief in Hashem, in the Tselem Elokim, the divine image which you created. You should become creative, and through you the world can be changed. In other words, Hashem saw, and this all has to do also, we'll soon see next year, we'll deal also with the Tower of Babel. He saw you can't change the world with a Noachide. After all, he revealed the Noachide code. He saw the Noachide code in the conscience of man not strong enough. So Hashem revealed the Noachide code to Noach. When Noach survived, he said, I'm giving now for mankind the Noachide code. So you and your descendants should carry this revelation. And now here I want to add something. We've got here a book called Universal Jewish History, where he brings a record of ancient codes and shows that all the ancient codes of law are connected with the ancient Noachide code mentioned in the Chumash, in the Parsha we read yesterday. In other words, this Noachide code became known to the nations. Only, unfortunately, the nations, they kept aspects of it, but on the whole, in the early times, they did not separate themselves from idolatry. They may believe there's an ultimate God at the top, but they worshipped the other God, the sun and the moon. As we know, even Avram's father, Terach. Terach comes from Lut Yoreach. He manufactured idols in a place of moon worship. There was sun worship, but they still, in their codes, if you look at them carefully, today there's so much evidence available, it was known. There's a code which comes from the gods, by those who believed in idols. Only a few of them still had the belief in the one God. But they believe there's a code we've got to keep to, otherwise, so our society, whether it's the Hittite code or the code of Hammurabi, which is known, or there's even a code in ancient Peruvian civilization, because all over the world. So this was the code that still remained to some extent, that mankind should not destroy themselves and destroy the world around them. And there's a certain group, through Avraham Avinu, that strongly taught all aspects of the Noachide code, which was also taught in the yeshiva of Shem and Eva. But that yeshiva, by itself, still followed a little bit the way of Noach. Noach's son Shem. He preserved what Shem had received. Shem received the Noachide code, and he was taught, Malki Tzedek Melech Shalem, So it was called in Shalem, the ancient name for Shalim, and that's where he had a yeshiva, and that's where they taught this code, and the code was spread to the other nations a little bit, but it was not outgoing enough. For that there had to come a descendant also of Noach and of Shem, who until today, this is the ways of Ashgocha. We are the Semites. But our most extreme enemies, they're also Semites. They claim they're Semites. And I know someone who goes regularly to college campuses where there's debates between the pro-Palestinians and the pro-Israel groups. It's very important to work on the campus. He tells me he gets frequently, when they speak about anti-Semitism, so they put up their hand, how can you accuse us, Muslim anti-Semitism? We're Semites. We're not anti of ourselves, but it's still stuck. And when they say anti-Semitic, they mean us. They don't mean all the Semites. Okay. Just time for one more brief question.
That chesed that Noah had to do for all the animals and everything,
Yeah.
that was the real Zohar in the ark, right?
That's one of the explanations, yes. Yeah.
That's how I saw it.
Yes. Good. That's a good addition to the description I gave, yes. Okay.